A DJ is someone who plays music to an audience, commonly at bars, clubs, or other events. There's a variety of different platforms that a DJ can mix from. These could include turntables and controllers or CD decks. But essentially what they're doing is mixing one track into the next between two or more media players. Many DJs also practice the art of blending one track into the next, which adds beat matching and level control to the mix. Get it? So let's break down the gear. I'm just going to go through all the basic kind of gear. The first thing that you need is headphones. When you're preparing your next track, you might want to see how it vibes with the current track, but you're not going to want to do that out loud for the sake of the audience. So this is where headphones come in. They'll allow you to assess volume levels, tempo, harmony, to see how it goes against the current track, so you can kind of get an idea of how the mix is going to work out. So this is particularly useful when you're blending tracks together, so you'll get more effective transitions from one track to the next. Right now for the decks. So you have two decks at least. This deck is 1 and 3, and this one is 2 and 4. But we're just going to focus on 2 deck mixing for this tutorial. First thing I'm going to show you is the cue button. That's this little bugger here. The cue button's going to let you set the starting point of the track where you want it. So I use the cue button to take me back to the start of the track. So if I mess up or if I'm just doing a vibe check, I can quickly get back to the point where I want to press play from. Just to demonstrate that. So I'm going to set the cue point to here. That doesn't sound like the start of the track. So let's press play and see where the start of the track is. There we go. So that was the first beat. We're going to go back to that, and we want that to be the cue point, because with mixing you've got to think about bar structure and how they line up. If you're just playing one track after the next, then you probably don't need to think about that. So now I've pressed cue. That is now my cue point. If I play the track and I want to go back, I hit cue. Bam. Back at the start again. The cue button will only cue at a point where it's paused at. So if I'm playing the track and I press cue, it's just going to go back to where I've previously cued. You're going to need to pause it before you cue it. I'm going to guess that you have a good idea of what this one does already. Play and pause? No? It starts the track playing from wherever it's set to at that time. Again, if you want to set a new cue point, you can play through the track and then pause it at the point where you want to set your new cue point, and then hit cue. And that's your new cue point. Right, so next is the jog wheel. Now this is the thing that people imitate when they're pretending to be a DJ. You know the one. So it's kind of an imitation of the platter on turntables, but it's obviously a digital format. So if you touch that part of it, it kind of gives you a bit of a scratch effect. That's what you're going to want to use if you're good enough to scratch, not like me. I cannot scratch. So I try and adjust the jog wheel from the sides to avoid the scratch. If you touch the top and you're mid-track, that's going to stop the track, so avoid that. See? But essentially it is just a way of fast forwarding and rewinding the track, so you can try and line it up with the other when you're beat matching. It's also what you do when you want to make that magic spinny sound, so voila. Okay, so this next bit is very important if you're looking to blend tracks together, because it's essential for beat matching, and that's the pitch control, this slider here. So this is going to control the BPM of the track. Let's show you. Unlike the jog wheel, this is a permanent change to the speed of the track. So that's basically it for the actual decks. So most decks will also have a mixer. Pretty much all controllers come with decks and a mixer now, unlike the times when you had to buy each deck separately and a mixer, and that was very expensive. But yeah, the first thing that you're gonna notice is these fancy controls here called faders. So this is just to quickly adjust the volume of the whatever the audience is hearing. So that's for like quick adjustments if you're chopping a track in or chopping it out. It doesn't affect the permanent volume of the track. That would be more for the gain and the EQ knobs that we'll talk about in a sec. There is also another type of fader called the crossfader. I normally have this set to off because I commonly knock it by accident. Sometimes I might have it set to there so that it's just that track, which is fine when it's just that track playing. But then say if I want to bring in this one, the audience isn't going to hear that because the crossfader's all the way to that side. But the crossfader is essentially for fading between two tracks. Okay, just to do a little demonstration of the crossfader. This isn't going to sound good, by the way. I'm just going to start by playing deck 2, and then we're going to cross over to deck 1. I'm going to make sure the BPMs are matched. And that's the crossfader. Next is the EQ and the gain settings. That's all these knobs here. So you just think of them as volume and EQ control. So the top knobs are going to be for gain, and that's going to change the permanent volume of the track, whether it's through the headphones or what the audience hears. Whereas the faders are literally just volume for whatever the audience hears. You also get a 3-band EQ. This is so you can adjust the treble, the mids, and the bass. You essentially use the EQs to filter out parts of tracks. So we might want to make room for the mid-range of the incoming track or the bass of the incoming track. We might want to blend the mids and the highs of one track with the bass from the other. This is where these come in to kind of draw focus to certain frequency bands of said track. So let's show you. So that's cutting the mids, that's cutting the highs, and that's cutting the bass. The gain knob, that's changing the overall volume. So lastly is probably the cue buttons. Now these are very important for headphone mixers. So these are what let you preview the track through the headphones. So if I've got this track playing here and I'm going to want to mix in this track, I'm going to need to make sure the cue button for the headphones is activated. So that allows me to hear more of the incoming track than I can of the current track. Some mixers, mostly Pioneer, they'll also have a master channel. So that's for everything that the audience is hearing, and that will also have a cue button. A lot of headphone controls have a blend knob that blends between the master, which is the speaker signal, what the audience hears, and then on the other end of the dial, it will have the cue. So that's whatever is queued up to come in next. That blend will let you kind of get an idea of what they sound like together, It'll also let you hear one beat over the other if you need to beat match it. And it also let you get an idea of the levels if you need to adjust any. Say you might need to decrease the volume of the incoming track because it's coming in too loud. The headphone's going to let you hear that first before the audience hears it. Hello Vegeta. Sorry, I'm a nerd. So I'm just going to show you the headphone knob. This is what I mean. So program is what's coming through the speakers. Q is what's coming through this bugger. I'm going to try and show you. This track is set to up and this track is set to down, but the down track is queued. So with the mix set to what the audience is hearing, and then when we turn right, so now we're going to trial a mix. I got these tracks off a royalty-free website. I'll make them available for you to have a go with so you can imitate what I'm doing. Right, so I've pre-set up a mix. Now we're just going to run through it so you can see how it's done. I got these tracks off a royalty-free website. I'm going to make them available for you to download in case you want to give it a try yourself. So basically what we're doing is pressing play on the incoming track at the right time to make sure that it drops at the point you want it to. Commonly it's once the previous track has ended. So I'll be mixing out of the outro of the track on deck 1 into the intro of the track on deck 2. And that was a mix. Like I said, I'm going to upload the tracks. They'll be available. I'm also going to upload a tech list of stuff, recommended gear to begin with. But yes, this was my DJ tutorial, rough as it was. I hope you've learned something from it anyway. I'm going to make the tracks that I've used available in case you want to imitate what I've done, kind of get a feel for it. I'm going to include a tech list of like recommended gear to start with if you're a beginner. Any suggestions, ideas or questions, hit me up, drop something in the comments. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Milo.